During Christmas dinner, my daughter-in-law said, "We didn't get you a gift. You already cost us enough." I smiled, placed her present under the tree, and left. When she opened that box, the room went silent. Then she started screaming. But let me back up. Let me tell you how I got to that moment, because the humiliation didn't start that night. It had been building for years, brick by brick, until the whole foundation of my family crumbled. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. My name is Debora Hayes. I'm 65 years old, and I've lived in the same modest house in Tucson, Arizona for 32 years. The house where my husband James and I raised our son Kyle. The house where James died 5 years ago, leaving me with memories and a secret I didn't know existed until much later. Christmas Eve 2024. 22 people crammed into Kyle and Briana's living room. My son's wife had insisted on hosting this year. She said it was because their new furniture needed to be shown off. A gray sectional sofa that cost more than my monthly pension. A glass coffee table that reflected the twinkling lights like a mirror of false joy. I arrived at 6 p.m. with a red velvet cake I'd spent all afternoon baking. James's recipe. Kyle used to beg for it every birthday when he was little. I thought maybe it would remind him of simpler times, of a mother who loved him before money became the only language he understood. Nobody acknowledged the cake. Briana took it from my hands without looking at me and placed it on the kitchen counter next to 3 store-bought pies still in their plastic containers. I sat in the corner armchair, the one nobody wanted because it faced away from the TV. My sister Sandra was there with her son Tyler, my 17-year-old nephew. Sandra has always been competitive. When we were young, she resented that our mother left me the family china. When James and I bought this house, she made comments about how some people get all the luck. Tonight, Sandra wore a designer dress I knew she couldn't afford on a retired teacher's salary. She kept touching the fabric, making sure everyone noticed. "Debora," she said loud enough for everyone to hear, "you're looking so tired. Are you taking care of yourself?" It wasn't concern. It was a performance. Kyle handed out gifts. Briana got a diamond bracelet. Sandra received a spa voucher. Tyler got the latest smartphone. Other relatives opened their boxes to reveal thoughtful, expensive presents. Then it was my turn. Briana walked up to me. The room went quiet. She held no box, no bag, nothing. Just her manicured hands folded in front of her tight red dress. "Debora," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Kyle and I decided we didn't get you a gift this year." I waited. Maybe there was more. Maybe this was a joke. "You already cost us enough," she continued. Sandra laughed. Actually laughed. A sharp, ugly sound that cut through the Christmas music playing softly in the background. Tyler had his phone out. He was filming. I could see the red recording light. He whispered to his friend next to him, "This is gonna be viral." Kyle stood behind Briana. He didn't defend me, didn't say a word. His eyes were on the floor. I thought about the years of double shifts at the municipal library, the arthritis in my hands from reshelving thousands of books. I thought about James working himself sick as a mechanic to save money neither of us ever spent on ourselves. I thought about the small envelope I'd tucked into my purse before coming here tonight. I stood up. My legs were shaky, but my voice was calm. "I understand," I said. I walked to the Christmas tree and placed a small wrapped box beneath it. The paper was silver. I'd wrapped it carefully that morning while drinking my coffee alone. "Merry Christmas, Briana," I said. Then I put on my coat and walked out the front door. Behind me, I heard confused murmurs. Someone asked what was in the box. I didn't turn around. I drove home in silence. No radio, no tears. Just the sound of my own breathing and the distant hum of Tucson's city lights. 3 hours later, my phone exploded with notifications. The first call was from Kyle. I let it ring. The second was from Sandra. I let it ring. Then the texts started flooding in. Angry, desperate, confused. Because Briana had opened the box. Inside was a small brass key, the kind banks give you for safety deposit boxes. Attached to it was a handwritten note on my late husband's personal stationery. I'd found that stationery in his workshop last month, untouched for 5 years. The note read, "Ask Pastor Eugene about the 2019 Testament. He knows where James kept what you want so badly. Debora. My phone rang again. This time it was Briana. Her voice was shrill, panicked. What testament? You don't have any money? You're a librarian. You drive a 12-year-old Honda. I hung up. 30 seconds later, Kyle called. I answered this time. Mom, what is this? What are you talking about? I could hear Briana shrieking in the background. I could hear Sandra's voice too, sharp and demanding. You'll figure it out, I said quietly. Merry Christmas, Kyle. I hung up and turned off my phone. I sat in my small living room. The same floral couch James and I bought in 1998. The same wooden side table with the scratches from where Kyle used to do his homework. The same framed photos on the wall showing a family that no longer existed. But something had shifted. For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't just the widow. I wasn't just the mother they tolerated when they needed something. I was someone who had a secret. And they were about to find out exactly what it was worth. The phone calls didn't stop for 3 days. Kyle called 47 times. I counted. Briana called 31. Sandra called 18. Even Tyler sent me a text that said, Aunt Deb, my mom is freaking out. What's going on? I didn't answer any of them. On December 27th, I drove to Pastor Eugene's church. He was expecting me. I'd called him the morning after Christmas, and his voice had been gentle but knowing. Debora, he'd said, I wondered when this day would come. Pastor Eugene Miller has been the spiritual leader of our community for 38 years. James trusted him completely. They used to meet for coffee every Tuesday morning at the diner on 6th Street. I never knew what they talked about. James said it was just old men solving the world's problems over burned coffee. Now I understood it was much more than that. Eugene's office was small and smelled like old books and lemon polish. He sat behind a wooden desk covered with papers and a worn leather Bible. He was 70 now, his hair completely white, but his eyes were sharp and clear. He knew, Eugene said before I could ask. James knew Kyle would become weak. I sat down heavily in the chair across from him. The words hurt, even though I'd suspected them for years. When did he tell you? 6 months before he died. He came to me in the middle of the night, said he'd been diagnosed with the heart condition and didn't have much time. He wanted to make sure you'd be protected. Eugene opened his desk drawer and pulled out a sealed envelope. My name was written across the front in James's handwriting. That familiar slanted script I used to see on birthday cards and grocery lists. He made me promise to give you this only if Kyle ever tried to take the house or declared you incompetent. He said you'd know when the time was right. My hands trembled as I took the envelope. Inside was a letter and a bank document. Deb, if you're reading this, it means our son chose greed over love. I'm sorry. I raised him better than that. Or at least I tried. I've been buying life insurance policies and investing in property for 30 years. You never knew because I wanted you to live simply, to be safe from people who value money over family. Turns out I was right. Just wrong about who the threat would be. There's $340,000 in Treasury bonds in safety deposit box 847 at Desert Trust Bank. The key Eugene has. There's also the deed to 80 acres of land near Red Rock. I bought it in 1995 for $28,000. A developer called me last year offering $890,000 for it. I said no, that land is yours now. Use it to protect yourself, not to punish Kyle. If he comes back to you as a real son, then you decide what he deserves. But never let anyone make feel small again. You were always stronger than me. Now be strong without me, James. I read it 3 times. Each time, tears blurred the words, but I kept reading. For $230,000 total. James had been a mechanic who never made more than $45,000 a year. And he'd saved this. For me. There's something else, Eugene said gently. James recorded a video message. He wanted you to have it, but also wanted Kyle to see it someday. If Kyle ever proved himself worthy. He turned his computer screen toward me and pressed play. James appeared. Thinner than I remembered, his face gaunt from the illness he'd hidden from me. He was sitting in this same office. Deb, if you're watching this, I'm gone, and I'm sorry I kept secrets, but I need you to know something about Kyle. He paused, his eyes heavy with sadness. 2 years before I died, Kyle came to me asking for $50,000. Said he had a business opportunity. I investigated. It was gambling debts. He'd been betting on sports online and lost everything. I paid them off on one condition. He never told you, never gambled again, and never asked me for money again. My stomach turned to ice. He promised. But Deb, 6 months later, he married Briana. And I saw the way she looked at our house, at your car, at everything we had. She wasn't marrying Kyle. She was marrying access. James leaned closer to the camera. Be careful of Sandra, too. Your sister called me once, drunk 3 years ago. Said it wasn't fair you got the house, the husband, the perfect life. Said she deserved more. I never told you because I didn't want to hurt you. But she's jealous, Deb. And jealous people do terrible things when money's involved. The video ended. I sat in silence. Eugene refilled my water glass. There's more you should know, he said. Briana came here 4 days ago. Offered me $3,000 cash to tell her what James left you. What did you say? I told her to leave. She got angry. Said I'd regret protecting a senile old woman who was hoarding money from her own family. He pulled out his phone and showed me a text message from Briana. You're making a mistake, Pastor. When we get control of her assets, you'll wish you'd cooperated. And yesterday, Eugene continued, your sister Sandra came, with a woman named Carla. Carla? Briana's business partner from the salon. Sandra said she was Briana's lawyer, but I know Carla. She does nails, not law. They tried to convince me you were mentally incompetent, said they had doctors willing to testify. The betrayal cut deeper than I expected. Sandra, my own sister, the woman I'd comforted when her husband left her, the woman whose son I'd helped tutor through high school. They're working together, Eugene said. All 3 of them, maybe more. I drove home in a daze. When I pulled into my driveway, Sandra's car was parked in front of my house. She was sitting on my porch steps. We need to talk, she said as I approached. There's nothing to say. Debora, I know you're upset about Christmas, but Briana was just being honest. You do cost them a lot. Kyle's been supporting you for years. The lie was so blatant I almost laughed. Kyle hasn't given me $1 since his father died. I've supported myself on my pension. Sandra's face tightened. That's not what he told me. He said you call him constantly for money, for repairs, for bills. He lied. Or maybe you're confused. Maybe you don't remember asking for help because— Don't. I cut her off. Don't try that game with me, Sandra. She stood up and her expression changed. The fake concern vanished. What replaced it was cold and calculating. Briana told me about James's money, about the land, about the bonds. She said if we work together, we can get you to sign a power of attorney. Split everything 3 ways. You don't need that much money at your age anyway. There it was. The truth, plain and ugly. Get off my property, I said quietly. Deb, get off my property. Sandra's eyes flashed with anger. You always thought you were better than me. Better house, better husband, better life. Well, guess what? I'm taking what should have been mine from the start. She walked to her car and drove away. I went inside and locked the door. Then I called Richard Salazar, the lawyer Eugene had recommended, a man who specialized in elder abuse cases. Mr. Salazar, I said when he answered, I need to file protective orders against my son, my daughter-in-law, and my sister. Tell me everything, he said. I did, and 3 days later, when Sandra tried to access my bank account using a forged power of attorney, the bank's fraud department was ready. They called me immediately. Mrs. Hayes, someone just attempted to open your safety deposit box using a document with your signature. Our system flagged it as suspicious. We're holding her here. Should we call the police? Yes, I said. Call them. My sister was arrested at Desert Trust Bank at 2:47 p.m. on December 30th, 2024. When Kyle called me that night, his voice was panicked. Mom, what did you do? Aunt Sandra is in jail. I protected myself, I said, like your father told me to. What are you talking about? Dad didn't leave you anything. We checked. No, Kyle, you assumed. And now you're all going to learn what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. I hung up. The war had officially begun. Sandra made bail in 6 hours. Briana paid it. $5,000 cash. I found out later from Richard Salazar, my lawyer, who had contacts in the courthouse. They're circling the wagons, Richard told me over the phone. This is when they get desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. But knowing that didn't make the loneliness any easier. For 2 weeks, I didn't leave my house except to buy groceries. Every time I drove past the church, past the library where I'd worked for 28 years, past the diner where James and I used to have breakfast on Sundays, I felt like a ghost haunting my own life. Kyle stopped calling. That hurt more than I expected. On January 10th, Maggie Torres knocked on my door. Maggie has been my best friend since 1987. We met at a PTA meeting when Kyle was in 1st grade. Her daughter was in his class. Over the years, we'd shared coffee, gossip, grief, and joy. She was holding a casserole dish and her face was tight with anger. "I saw them," she said as she pushed past me into the kitchen. "Briana, Sandra, and that woman Carla, at Rosita's diner yesterday. I was 2 booths away." She set the casserole on my counter and pulled out her phone. "I recorded part of their conversation. The restaurant was noisy, but you can hear enough." She pressed play. Briana's voice came through, sharp and irritated. "The old bitch is tougher than we thought. Sandra getting arrested was a disaster." Sandra's response: "I told you the bank would flag it, but you insisted." "Shut up. We need a new plan." "Carla, did you talk to that doctor?" A third voice, nasal and calculating: "Dr. Morrison, he owes me a favor. He'll testify that Debora showed signs of dementia when she came to the salon. Confusion, memory loss, paranoia." "Perfect. And what about the nursing home option?" My blood went cold. "There's a place in Mesa," Carla continued. "They specialize in Alzheimer's patients. Once we get guardianship, we can put her there, sell the house, liquidate everything. The land alone is worth almost $1 million. Briana laughed. "Split 3 ways, that's over $300,000 each. Plus whatever's in those bonds." "What about Kyle?" Sandra asked. "Kyle will do what I tell him. He always does." The recording ended. I stared at Maggie. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit down. "There's more," Maggie said quietly. "I called my cousin who works at the county clerk's office. Someone filed a petition 3 days ago to have you declared mentally incompetent. The hearing is scheduled for February 3rd, 24 days away. They're going to take everything," I whispered, "and put me in a home." "Not if we fight back," Maggie said firmly. "Richard needs to hear this recording. And you need to go to that bank and get everything out of that safety deposit box before they find another way in." She was right. The next morning, I drove to Desert Trust Bank. My hands were steady on the wheel, but inside I was screaming. The parking lot was nearly empty. January in Tucson is quiet. Snowbirds haven't arrived yet, and locals are still recovering from the holidays. I walked up to the vault attendant, a young man named Marcus who'd helped me before. "Mrs. Hayes," he said warmly. "Good to see you. Here for box 847? I nodded and handed him the key Eugene had given me. He led me to the private viewing room, a small windowless space with a table and a chair. He brought the metal box and set it in front of me. "Take your time," he said, and closed the door. I sat there for a full minute before opening it. Inside were stacks of papers. Treasury bonds, each one meticulously labeled with dates and amounts. James's handwriting on every label. I counted $340,000 total. Beneath the bonds was a large manila envelope, written on it in James's handwriting, "For Kyle. Open only if he proves he loves you more than money." My hands trembled as I held it. I wasn't supposed to open this. It was for my son. But what if he never proved himself? What if Briana had destroyed him completely? I broke the seal. Inside was a letter and a photograph. The photo showed Kyle at age 9, gap-toothed and grinning, holding a crude Mother's Day card he'd made in school. The card said, "When I grow up, I'm going to take care of you forever, Mom. I love you more than video games. Love, Kyle." I remembered that card. I'd kept it in my jewelry box for years until it disappeared during a move. James had saved it. The letter was written in James's careful script. Kyle, if you're reading this, it means your mother decided to show you. That means something changed in you. Or maybe she's just hoping it will. I need to tell you something I never said when I was alive because I was scared it would push you away. But death makes cowards brave. You disappointed me, son. Not because you made mistakes, everyone does, but because you let a woman who doesn't love you turn you into someone who doesn't love your mother. When you were 9, you made that card. You meant every word. I watched you struggle with the spelling, watched you draw that crooked heart with so much care. You wanted to take care of her. What happened to that boy? I paid off your gambling debts because I loved you, but I didn't put you in my will because I didn't trust you. Your mother doesn't know this, but I changed everything 6 months before I died. She gets it all. If you want any of it, you have to earn it back by being the man I raised you to be, not the man Briana wants you to be. Your mother is the strongest person I've ever known. She worked double shifts when you were little so you could have new shoes and soccer cleats. She went without so you wouldn't have to. And now you're letting your wife humiliate her? This is your choice, Kyle. Your mother or the money. Not both. Dad, I read it twice. Then I put everything back in the envelope and tucked it into my purse. I took the bonds, closed the box, and walked out. On my way to the car, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Tyler. Can we talk? Please. I sat in my car and called the number. Aunt Deb? His voice was young, scared. What do you want, Tyler? I got suspended from school today. 3 days. The principal saw the video I posted on Christmas. She said it was cyberbullying. Family cyberbullying. I said nothing. My mom is going crazy. She's saying it's your fault, that you reported me, but I don't think you did. I didn't. I know. And Aunt Deb, I'm sorry. I didn't know what Mom was doing. I thought it was just family drama. But last night, I heard her on the phone with Briana. They were talking about putting you in a nursing home, about selling your house. His voice cracked. That's messed up. I didn't know. I swear. What do you want from me, Tyler? I want to help. I recorded Mom's phone calls. Not on purpose at first, but I have an app that backs up everything. I have 3 conversations between her and Briana, talking about the plan. My heart pounded. Can you send them to me? Yeah, but Aunt Deb, if Mom finds out I did this, she'll kill me. Then don't tell her. Okay, I'm sending them now. And Aunt Deb? I really am sorry about the video. I was being a jerk. Yes, I said. You were. I hung up. 3 minutes later, 3 audio files appeared in my messages. I forwarded them to Richard Salazar with a note, evidence, from my nephew. Then I drove home and, for the first time in 2 weeks, I didn't cry. I was done being sad. Now I was angry. And anger, I was learning, is much more useful than grief. Richard Salazar's office was on the 3rd floor of a building that smelled like old carpet and copier toner. He was a compact man in his late 50s, with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. These recordings are gold, he said, playing Tyler's audio files through his computer speakers. Clear conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, attempted theft by deception. He leaned back in his chair. With this evidence, we can get the incompetency hearing dismissed. We can file criminal charges. And Debora, we can make them very, very sorry. I don't want revenge, I said. I want protection. Sometimes, Richard said quietly, they're the same thing. He pulled out a folder. I've been doing some digging on your behalf. Your son Kyle signed a document with his employer 6 months ago claiming he was the primary caregiver for his elderly disabled mother. He got a $3,000 bonus for caregiving expenses and priority scheduling. My stomach dropped. But you're not disabled. You don't need care. Which means he committed fraud against his employer. He wouldn't. He did. I have the paperwork. And I have a contact at Premier Auto Sales where he works. If they find out, it's immediate termination. Fraud is a fireable offense. I thought about Kyle. My son who used to bring me dandelions from the yard when he was 5. who cried when his goldfish died, who promised to always protect me. Do it, I said. Richard nodded and made a call. That afternoon, Kyle lost his job. I found out from Maggie, who heard it from her husband, whose friend worked at the same dealership. Kyle had been escorted out by security at 2:15 p.m. His $8,000 year-end bonus was revoked. His commission from December sales was frozen pending investigation. He called me at 6:30 p.m. Mom, his voice was broken. I lost my job. They said I lied about taking care of you. They said someone reported me for fraud. I said nothing. Was it you? No, I said. And technically, it wasn't. It was Richard. But you knew, didn't you? You knew they'd find out. I know you lied, Kyle. I know you claimed I was disabled when I'm perfectly healthy. I know you took money meant for actual caregivers. Briana said it was okay. She said everyone does it. She said, Briana is destroying you. I cut him off. And you're letting her. He hung up. 2 days later, the karma came for Briana. I was having coffee with Maggie when she got a text from a friend who worked at the county health department. Oh my God, Maggie said, reading her phone. Briana's salon is being shut down. What? Health inspection. Unannounced. They found expired products, unlicensed equipment for chemical peels, chairs without proper certification. 12 violations. Maggie showed me her phone. There was already a photo circulating on Facebook, Briana's salon and spa with a red closed for violations notice taped to the glass door. The fine was $12,000. The suspension was 30 days minimum. How did they know to inspect her? Maggie asked. I sipped my coffee and said nothing. But the truth was, Richard had a cousin who worked for health services. And Richard's cousin owed him a favor. Sometimes protection requires precision. That evening, Sandra called me for the first time since her arrest. You're destroying this family, she hissed into the phone. I'm protecting myself from people who wanted to put me in a nursing home and steal my house. We were trying to help you by forging my signature, by planning to declare me incompetent, by splitting my money 3 ways. Silence. Tyler told you. Her voice was ice. Tyler grew a conscience. He's a child. He doesn't understand adult decisions. He understood you were committing crimes. He understood right from wrong, which apparently makes him more of an adult than you. Sandra made a sound between a sob and a scream. I lost 3 tutoring clients because of you. Parents don't want their kids around someone who was arrested for fraud. I'm broke, Deborah. I can't pay rent next month. Then get a job, like normal people do. I'm 58 years old. Nobody hires 58-year-old teachers. You should have thought about that before you tried to rob your sister. I hung up, but the call bothered me more than I wanted to admit. Sandra and I had been close once. When we were girls, we'd shared a bedroom, shared secrets, shared dreams. Our mother used to say we were 2 halves of the same heart. When did money become more important than that? On January 18th, I did something I'd been putting off. I called Kyle. I want to have dinner with you, I said. Just you. Not Briana, not anyone else. Mom, I don't think that's a good idea. I have something to show you, something your father left for you. Silence. Then, what did he leave? Come to dinner and you'll find out. Rosita's Diner, tomorrow at 6. Come alone, Kyle. If Briana shows up, I leave. Okay, he said quietly. I'll come. I hung up and immediately felt sick. What if he didn't come? What if he brought Briana anyway? What if the letter from James wasn't enough? That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the little boy who made me that Mother's Day card, the one who promised to take care of me forever. Where had he gone? At noon the next day, my phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Hayes? This is Jessica Chen from the Tucson Herald. I'm writing a story about elder financial abuse in Arizona. Your case has come to our attention through court filings. Would you be willing to comment? How did you get my number? Public records. Your sister Sandra Hayes was arrested for attempted fraud against you, and there's a pending incompetency hearing scheduled for February 3rd, filed by your daughter-in-law Briana Hayes. My head spun. I don't want to comment. I understand. But Mrs. Hayes, this story is bigger than just you. There are thousands of seniors in Arizona being financially abused by family members. Your case could help others. I thought about that, about how alone I'd felt, about how I'd had no idea this kind of evil could come from your own blood. What would you need from me? An interview. On or off the record, your choice. And if you're willing, we'd like to photograph you. Show people that victims of elder abuse look like regular people, like someone's mother. Let me think about it. Of course. But Mrs. Hayes, the people trying to hurt you are going to keep trying. Public attention might be your best protection. She gave me her direct number and hung up. I sat at my kitchen table for a long time, thinking. James's voice echoed in my memory from the video Eugene had shown me. Be strong without me. Maybe being strong meant letting the world see what had happened. Maybe silence was what people like Briana counted on. At 5:45 p.m., I drove to Rosita's diner. I got there early and took a booth in the back. The same booth where James and I used to sit on Sunday mornings, where he'd read the paper and I'd do crossword puzzles, and we'd split an order of pancakes because one was always enough. At 6:02 p.m., Kyle walked in, alone. He looked terrible. His eyes were hollow, his face unshaven, his clothes wrinkled. He'd lost weight. The expensive watch Briana had bought him was gone from his wrist. He slid into the booth across from me and didn't say anything for a full minute. Finally, Briana doesn't know I'm here. Good. She said if I meet with you, she'll leave me. Then it sounds like you have a choice to make. He looked at me with eyes that reminded me of the little boy he used to be. Why did you really ask me here, Mom? I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope, the one marked, for Kyle in James's handwriting. I slid it across the table. Your father wanted you to have this, but only if you proved you loved me more than money. Kyle stared at the envelope like it might explode. Have I? He whispered. Proved it? I don't know yet, I said. That's what I'm here to find out. Kyle's hands shook as he picked up the envelope. He turned it over, staring at his father's handwriting like it was a message from beyond the grave, which I suppose it was. When did he write this? 6 months before he died. Open it. He broke the seal carefully, almost reverently. The photograph slid out first. 9-year-old Kyle with his gap-toothed smile and that crooked Mother's Day card. I watched his face crumble. I remember making this, he whispered. I was so proud. I spent 2 hours on it in art class. Your father saved it. Kyle pulled out the letter. I watched his eyes move across the words. I watched him read about the gambling debts, about Briana marrying him for access, about the choice between his mother and money. Halfway through, his hands started trembling so badly the paper shook. When he finished, he set it down on the table and covered his face with both hands. He was right, Kyle said, his voice muffled. About everything. The gambling, Briana, all of it. Tell me. He lowered his hands. His eyes were red. I was $50,000 in debt when I met Briana. Online sports betting. I couldn't stop. Dad paid it off, made me promise to quit. I did for a while. Then Briana started talking about our future, about the house we'd have, the cars, the life. He laughed bitterly. She asked how much you were worth, not how you were doing. How much? I told her about this house, about Dad's pension. She started planning, said we needed to be strategic, said old people don't need as much money as they think. My chest tightened. I told myself she was just being practical. But Mom, 3 months ago, I saw emails on her laptop. She was writing to Sandra, planning how to get control of your assets, talking about nursing homes, about selling everything. Why didn't you tell me? Because I'm weak, his voice cracked. Because she said I was imagining things. Because she threatened to leave me if I sided with you over her. And I was scared of being alone. He looked at me with tears streaming down his face. I chose her over you, over Dad, over everything he taught me. And I can't take it back. I reached across the table and took his hand. It was the first time I'd touched my son in months. Read the last paragraph again, I said. He picked up the letter with trembling hands and read aloud. This is your choice, Kyle. Your mother, or the money. Not both. I choose you. He whispered. Mom, I choose you. I don't want the money. I don't want the land. I just want my mother back. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. Prove it, I said. How? I pulled out my phone and opened the email Richard had sent me that morning, the one with screenshots of text messages between Briana and Sandra. I slid the phone across the table. Kyle read. His face went from confusion to horror to devastation. The messages were from 2 weeks ago. Briana to Sandra. Kyle is getting suspicious. I need to speed this up. Sandra to Briana. What about after, when we have the money? Briana to Sandra. I'll divorce him. Open my spa in Scottsdale like we planned. Split with you and Carla. Kyle can't know until after we liquidate everything. Sandra to Briana. What if he fights back? Briana to Sandra. He won't. He's too weak. He'll believe whatever I tell him. Kyle stood up so fast he knocked over his water glass. Water spilled across the table. He stumbled toward the bathroom, hand over his mouth. I heard him vomiting. He came back 5 minutes later, face pale and damp. He slid back into the booth but couldn't look at me. She never loved me, he said. It was always about money. Yes, and Sandra. Aunt Sandra was going to help her steal from you and then split it with her. Yes. How long have you known? A week, maybe less. Richard found the messages during discovery for the incompetency hearing. Kyle's phone buzzed, then again, then continuously. He looked at the screen and his face went white. It's Briana. 15 missed calls, 20 texts. Don't answer. She knows I'm here. Someone told her. The diner door slammed open. Briana stood in the entrance, her face twisted with rage. She was still in her gym clothes, hair in a messy ponytail, no makeup. I'd never seen her look so raw, so ugly. You lying piece of shit, she screamed at Kyle. Every head in the diner turned. The cook stopped flipping burgers. The waitress froze mid-pour. Briana stormed to our booth. You were supposed to be at the gym. You said you had a workout. I lied, Kyle said quietly. What did she tell you? What lies did that miserable old woman feed you? She reached for the letter on the table. I grabbed it first. Don't touch that. Briana's eyes landed on my phone, still displaying the text messages. She lunged for it. Kyle blocked her, standing up between us. Briana, stop! Get out of my way! She shoved him. He stumbled back against the booth. She grabbed my phone and hurled it across the diner. It smashed against the wall near the register. You can't turn him against me. We're married. The manager emerged from the kitchen. Ma'am, you need to leave. I'm not going anywhere until this bitch tells me what she said to my husband. 2 other men stood up from their tables. One was large, with tattoos covering his arms. The other was older but solid. The lady asked you to leave, tattoo guy said. Briana grabbed a water glass from an empty table and threw it at the wall. It shattered, glass spraying everywhere. A woman with a baby screamed and ducked. I'm calling the police, the manager said, already reaching for his phone. That's when Tyler walked in. My nephew stood in the doorway, eyes wide, taking in the scene. Briana screaming, Kyle shaking, me sitting calmly in the booth with my arms crossed. Aunt Briana, Tyler said. Stop. You. Briana pointed at him with a shaking finger. You betrayed your own mother. You gave that woman the recordings. Yeah, Tyler said. I did. Because what you're doing is wrong. You're a child. You don't understand. I understand you wanted to put Aunt Deb in a nursing home and steal her house. I understand you lied to Uncle Kyle. I understand you're a terrible person. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Briana looked around wildly, at the broken glass, at the crowd of people watching her with disgust, at Kyle, who was backing away from her like she was diseased. This isn't over, she hissed at me. I'll destroy you. You can try, I said calmly. 2 police officers walked in. The manager pointed at Briana. She started crying immediately, the rage transforming into helpless sobs. She attacked me. That old woman attacked me. But the manager shook his head. No, officer. This woman came in screaming, assaulted her husband, threw property, threatened multiple people. We have it on camera. He pointed to the security camera in the corner. Briana was arrested for disorderly conduct, assault, and destruction of property at 6:47 p.m. on January 19, 2025. As they let her out in handcuffs, she screamed at Kyle, "If you don't bail me out, we're done. Do you hear me? Done." Kyle said nothing. When the police car pulled away, the diner went quiet. Then slowly, people went back to their meals. The manager brought us fresh waters and didn't charge us for dinner. Tyler sat down in the booth where Briana had been. "Aunt Deb, I'm sorry. For everything. The video. Helping Mom. All of it. I know. Can I do anything to make it right? You already have." Kyle stood in the parking lot afterward, staring at his car like he'd forgotten how to drive. Tyler and I walked out together. "Mom," Kyle said, turning to face me, "I don't have a job. I don't have money for bail. I don't have anything to offer you except an apology and a promise to do better." He got down on his knees, right there on the asphalt, in front of Tyler, in front of people walking to their cars. "Please," he whispered, "please give me one chance to be the son Dad wanted me to be." I looked down at my 40-year-old son, broken and begging, and I felt something crack open in my chest. "Get up, Kyle. Not until you answer. Get up." He stood slowly, tears running down his face. "You get one chance," I said. "One, and it starts now." 10 days after Briana's arrest, the Tucson Herald published Jessica Chen's article. The headline read, "The Price of Greed: How One Arizona Widow Fought Back Against Family Fraud." My photo was on the front page. Me, sitting in my living room, holding that Mother's Day card Kyle had made at age 9. The same card James had saved. The article went viral. Within 48 hours, it had been shared 87,000 times on social media. News stations from Phoenix called requesting interviews. A legal advocacy group for seniors reached out offering to use my case in their educational materials. But what mattered most were the comments. Hundreds of people sharing their own stories. Daughters who'd stolen from fathers, sons who'd abandoned mothers, families torn apart by inheritance wars. I wasn't alone. I'd just been brave enough to fight back. Briana spent 48 hours in jail before her arraignment. No one bailed her out. Not Kyle, not Carla, not even Sandra, who claimed she had no money. At the hearing, the judge saw the security footage from Rosita's diner, watched Briana throw the glass, shove Kyle, threaten me. The prosecutor added the fraud conspiracy evidence Richard had compiled. The judge set bail at $15,000 and ordered an ankle monitor. Briana tried calling Kyle from jail. He didn't answer. She tried calling Carla. The call went to voicemail. Finally, she called a bail bondsman and put up her car as collateral. She walked out of jail on January 21st wearing the same gym clothes she'd been arrested in, hair matted, face puffy from crying. The karma was just beginning. That same day, the Tucson Herald ran a follow-up piece. A local columnist wrote a scathing op-ed titled, "Beautician or Con Artist: The Dark Side of Elder Exploitation." It included Briana's salon closure, the health violations, the fraud conspiracy, her arrest. The columnist didn't hold back. While Briana Hayes was giving facials and manicures to Tucson's wealthy, she was plotting to institutionalize her 65-year-old mother-in-law and liquidate her assets. The irony: the poor old widow was worth over $1 million, money earned through decades of honest work, not Instagram filters and Botox. The comment section exploded. Former clients left one-star reviews. People shared screenshots of Briana's social media posts, bragging about designer purses and luxury vacations while claiming to support her struggling mother-in-law. Carla tried to distance herself. She posted on Facebook, "I had no knowledge of Briana's illegal activities. I am an innocent business partner." But Sandra's arrest records were public. The recordings Tyler had provided showed Carla's involvement. Within a week, Carla filed for dissolution of the salon partnership. The problem? Briana was the primary leaseholder, and Briana, with an ankle monitor and no income, couldn't sign the paperwork. The salon remained closed. Carla tried suing Briana for abandonment of partnership. Her lawyer dropped the case when he realized Briana had no assets to seize. Sandra's situation deteriorated faster. After losing her tutoring clients, she couldn't make February rent. The landlord filed for eviction. By February 15th, she was living in a one-bedroom apartment in a cheaper part of town with Tyler. Tyler told me this over coffee at the library where he now worked part-time. I'd called in a favor with my former supervisor to get him the job shelving books. "Mom cries every night," he said quietly. "She keeps saying it's your fault, that you destroyed the family." "What do you say?" "I say she destroyed it herself. But Aunt Deb, I feel bad for her. She's my mom." "You can love someone and still hold them accountable, Tyler." He nodded and showed me his phone. He'd posted a new TikTok video. In it, he looked directly at the camera and said, "6 weeks ago, I posted a video making fun of my aunt. I thought family drama was funny. I was wrong. My aunt is one of the strongest people I know, and family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when things get hard. I'm sorry, Aunt Deb." And to everyone watching, don't wait until it's too late to appreciate the people who really love you. The video had 24,000 views and climbing. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. Kyle's transformation was slower, but more profound. After Briana's arrest, he stayed with a former co-worker for 2 weeks. Then he came to my house. "I don't want money," he said at my doorstep. "I don't want the house. I want to earn back your trust. Tell me how." I handed him a printed contract. Richard had drafted it. Terms of conditional reconciliation. Kyle Hayes will reside in the trailer on the Red Rock property for a minimum of 12 months. He will refurbish and maintain the property in preparation for potential sale. He will attend therapy twice weekly, proof of attendance required. He will complete a career retraining program and secure employment within 6 months. He will have zero contact with Briana Hayes, Sandra Hayes, or Carla Mendez. After 12 months, Debora Hayes will reassess the relationship. Kyle read it twice. "This is more than fair," he said. "Where do I sign?" He moved into the trailer on February 1st. It was a 1973 Airstream James had bought years ago for camping trips we never took. It had electricity, running water, a tiny bathroom, and a bed. For 6 months, I didn't visit. Richard sent me monthly reports. Kyle had installed new fencing, cleared brush, planted native desert plants. He was attending therapy. His therapist confirmed it in writing. He'd enrolled in an HVAC certification program at the community college. He sent me text messages every Sunday. "Hi, Mom. Just checking in. Hope you're well." I never responded. On July 15th, I drove out to the property for the first time. The transformation was remarkable. The trailer was clean, surrounded by a small garden of succulents and cacti. The fence was repaired. A new gravel driveway led to a cleared area where Kyle had set up a small workshop. He was outside when I arrived, wearing work gloves and a sun hat, pulling weeds. He looked up, startled. Then he smiled, a real smile. The first genuine one I'd seen in years. "Mom, Kyle. Do you want to come inside? I made dinner, just pasta. Nothing fancy." The trailer was cramped but immaculate. He'd hung photos on the walls, old family pictures, James and me on our wedding day, Kyle as a baby, the 3 of us at the Grand Canyon. He served the pasta in 2 mismatched bowls. I took a bite. "You used your father's recipe," I said. "Yeah. I found it in his old recipe box. You kept it in the garage. I didn't know you knew how to cook. Dad taught me when I was 14. I just forgot. I forgot a lot of things." We ate in silence for a while. Then Kyle said, "I filed for divorce last month. Briana didn't contest it. She just wanted it over." "Where is she?" "Living with some guy she met online, in Phoenix. I don't ask questions." "Good." After dinner, I stood to leave. On my way out, I placed an envelope on the small table by the door. "What's this?" Kyle asked. "Open it after I leave." I drove away. In my rearview mirror, I saw him standing in the doorway, holding the envelope. Inside was $5,000 in cash and a handwritten note. "Kyle, for emergencies, not for comfort. You're doing well. Keep going. Don't disappoint me again. Mom." 3 hours later, my phone rang. It was Richard. "Debora, we have a problem." "What now?" "Briana hired a lawyer, a good one. Apparently someone's funding it. We don't know who yet. She's filing 2 lawsuits, one for alienation of affection, claiming you deliberately destroyed her marriage, and one for improper appropriation of marital assets, claiming Kyle's inheritance from James should have been split with her." My stomach tightened. Can she win? The cases are weak, but expensive to defend. Someone wants to bleed you financially, even if they can't win legally. This could cost you $30,000 in legal fees. Who would fund this? I don't know yet. But Debora, whoever it is, they're not done fighting. I hung up and sat in my driveway, staring at my house. The house James and I had saved for. The house I'd fought to keep. I thought about calling Kyle, warning him. But what would I say? That the war wasn't over? That Briana was coming back for round 2? Instead, I pulled out my phone and texted Richard 3 words. Let them try. Because here's what I'd learned in the 6 months since Christmas. You can't control who betrays you, but you can control how you respond. And I wasn't the same woman who'd walked out of that Christmas dinner in silence. I was someone who fought back, and I was ready to do it again. What would you do in Debora's situation? Would you have forgiven Kyle? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you have a similar story about family betrayal or elder abuse, submit it to our channel. Your story could help someone else find the courage to fight back. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more real-life stories like this one.